Half a year has passed since the day the locomotive robber came back to save Chief Engineer Melanie. Unfortunately, the only thing left inside the research station is only data records and a journal left by Melanie. So where's the engineer? Alex and the crew try to suppress their grief. They continue to bring the data that Melanie had risked her life to keep safe. Unexpectedly and coincidentally, the data shows that some places on Earth are gradually warming. The journey to find land where people can live is now just beginning. In another development, aboard Big Alice, the resistance still put on the fight to oppose Wilford rule, and many of them now are led by Pike. They are trying to observe the situation, nourish their strength, and protect the people, while waiting for the day when Snowpiercer returns. Over the past 6 months, Layton and his siblings have wandered through all the cold lands marked on the diagram, trying to collect pieces of ice to bring back to continue studying the data model. Although according to statistics, the temperature here has increased quite a lot, but to live is almost impossible. Meanwhile, they still need to try to hold on with the food stored in the first-class carriage, accompanied by problems in the locomotive. Because there were only more than 10 train cars, the phenomenon of excess energy began to occur. While returning to the train, Ben accidentally stepped on soft ground, and dropped down through the roof of a building. Alex announced that the locomotive could not bear it any longer. The excess energy was too much, causing the train to heat up, forcing them to depart immediately or they would not be able to move, so they decided to leave while Layton and Josie went out and rescue Ben. In 30 minutes, Alex will return to pick them up. Not only was the piston brown, even the cylinder was in an alarming state. The temperature in the upper part of the first-class carriage had dropped to an uninhabitable level. Zara is now recruited as Wilford's personal secretary. She proposes to remove the first car to help the train cut weight, but Wilford refuses. He is confident that he will be able to steal the train back and then everything will be as before. Kevin wanted to implement a policy of reducing personnel and killing people to ensure food and shelter. Luckily, Zara was there, so Wilford pretended not to agree. Kevin's nose was so sharp that he could smell a coup from the resistance army. Wilford handed over full authority to investigate and handle the matter to Kevin. He went to the night compartment of the couple LJ and Oz, who both served alcohol and sold information. As soon as Kevin asked, information immediately came out about the water supplier manager providing free services to those serving the resistance. Wilford, now aware of the situation, went directly to the water supply. The manager, fearing that he could not save his life, immediately declared has to give up their hiding place. Pike received the information that they had been compromised, so he took Ruth to another hiding spot. Kevin led the group of people to chase after them but was still one step too slow. Pike withdrew Ruth to the first-class carriage to take shelter. The temperature here has dropped to -25 degrees Celsius, so no one can live there. Pike redesigned the room to reduce the temperature to about -10 degrees so it is more comfortable for Ruth. Although it is difficult, Ruth manages to pull through at this temperature. Meanwhile, outside, the temperature was still around -80 degrees Celsius. Ben gradually regained consciousness, but his chest was in terrible pain. Layton had to quickly pull him up because the time was running out for his suit. Now he only has nearly 8 minutes left. Realizing that there were only 2 people left inside the train, Bess and Alex got ambushed by Audrey and her friend. She threatened Alex to go back to Wilford while holding the electric taser. Outside, Layton had climbed down to the basement. Ben only had 2 minutes left, so he quickly connected the rope to Ben. He tried to get Ben to talk about the past so the engineer wouldn't faint. Audrey kicked the door hard and locked Sykes in the cage. She calmly lit a cigarette with an electric taser and sat with her feet up on the chair to threaten Alex, but she was busy calculating how to release the heat outside, so she didn't have time to argue. After saving Ben, Layton wanted Josie to pull Ben forward because the battery in his suit didn't have enough time left. Layton lied to her that he still had a lot of time and he would climb up later. Unfortunately, his suit only lasted about 8 minutes. He later discovered that there were still signs of electricity around the building, so he wanted to search further. Aboard Wilford's rolling gulag, Ruth shares her perspective to us, confirming she wouldn't give up as her heart will be the last to go. She realized that there's a number of jackboots keep checking something at the tail of the rolling gulag. She investigated further and saw that they are secretly working on a weapon. She sent a message to Pike via her rat pet, informing the resistance that Wilford is secretly working on something. Meanwhile, Joseph Wilford is chilling on his bathtub in Big Alice's engine with Mrs. Hedwood and Kevin McMahon discussing that it is a big day ahead. At Pirate Train, Asha is slowly recovering with Josie and Layton checking up on him. Bennett explained that Asha survived 8 years outside by living off the residual power as the reactor cools. The group examined the ice sample and found out that the temperature is indeed rising, but not enough to be habitable. Till and Alex started to be worried since it is the 5th place in Melanie's model that is not warm enough, which leaves them to one final place, the Horn of Africa. Josie remarks that the food isn't enough to get there anymore, especially with another person aboard. Layton suggested that they reconnect with Wilford's rolling gulag, then take everyone there. Alex and Till are concerned about getting everyone there, but Layton told them not to worry. Later Layton went on and checked on Asha. She finally regained consciousness. Layton calmed her down while she anxiously tries to find her suit. He later take her to library car and show her out of the window. Asha is surprised how the train had survived this long. Back in Wilford's rolling gulag, Javi helped Wilford and Mrs. Hedwood test out their new EMP weapon at 10%. The weapon realized huge electromagnet wave that bumped the train hard. Wilford is pleased by the testing results. In the meantime, Pike visits Ruth in her hideout at first-class dining. Pike asks Ruth not to risk and spies outside, but Ruth said that she wouldn't just sit around and be useless. In the night car, Osweiler proposed to L.J. Folger. The two make their way to the Eternal Engineer to tell him the good news. Wilford said that he would set up the wedding ceremonial tomorrow. Zara took the cake maker out of Big Alice's compost car. Pike later took Zara to a corner and told her that Ruth wants to talk with Javi about the EMP weapon. Aboard pirate train, Alex and Ben is working on the way to find Wilford's train. Ben comforts Alex about Melanie. Layton keeps seeing this vision of the dragon blood tree. He went to the library car to find books about it and found out that it only grows on the Horn of Africa. He talked to Till, but she doesn't approve of telling the crew and doesn't believe about Layton's vision. Meanwhile, Josie take Asha to stay in Steward's quarters. Asha is still shocked about the whole thing. Back on Wilford's train, Osweiler is pissed that LJ is greedy of power so much. Oz said that a small ceremony is more than enough, but LJ adores Wilford and admit that he could help the two of them rule the train someday. Oz walked away angrily. Meanwhile, Zara approached to Javier, who is still in a deep trauma from Jupiter's attack. Zara told Javi that it's just the two of them and they could talk together, but Javi doesn't reply. Zara then lied to Javi that Wilford asked him to check on something, so he left. Wilford hurriedly returned to Javi's locomotive. With his experience and ghostly mind, he easily realized that there was something wrong. Thinking for a moment, Wilford asked to turn on all the lights. Indeed, in front of him were bridges and long iron bars blocking the tracks. Luckily, Javi slowed down in time or the train would have crashed into the barricade. Kevin celebrated Wilford's first victory, but he knew that this time he had fallen into Layton's trap. He didn't want to stop Wilford but just slowing him down. Now, Big Alice was heavy. Now it's even slower and doesn't have enough energy to keep moving. Wilford guessed that this was some kind of plan by Layton. Surely he would not be stupid enough to slow down the train because the guards would rush in and bury him in the compost cellar. He is truly not only a good engineer but also a talented strategist. The plan they use is the weapon that Wilford created, Josie, who Wilford will take advantage of. Two trains intersected and the resistance started planning to take over the locomotive. There's only one chance, so they can't let it slip away. Wilford summoned Zara to the locomotive as a hostage to prevent that plan from happening. When Josie went outside to discover that plan, Ben immediately changed tracks but was still stuck crashing into the rear of the train. The damaged part of the derailment made it very difficult for the train to move, plus the heat from the wheel burn increased even more. There was no other way. Alex was forced to remove 4 back cars immediately. Layton wanted to rescue Asha first, but Alex was afraid he wouldn't be able to make it in time. If he got down there for too long, the train would also stop. Fortunately, at this time the black girl was quick to save Asha, so Layton felt secure in removing the latch, but after only 2 days of rescuing her, he already felt guilty. Not stopping there, the reporter took the opportunity to drive to another track and turn off all radio equipment on the train. His strategy of immobility caused many difficulties for the people. They were like mice, not knowing where the black cat would pounce from and tear them to the bone. Wilford orders Kevin to conduct an investigation throughout the train, as the return of Layton is definitely an opportunity for the resistance to rebel. Meanwhile, Pike had arrived at the place of detention. He introduced himself as a lawyer of the tailies and threatened the fat guard to either open the door or Pike will beat him up. When they met again, the first thing she did was stop him from unlocking the lock. If anyone wanted to unlock it, they would have to find the other guard to kill and get the key. After listening to Pike briefly explain the current situation of Layton, she knew now that if she wanted to win, she had to help Layton discover the train. She guided him to the path to the radio station, where there were fireworks to celebrate the new year. Ben's group was having a headache trying to figure out a difficult problem and suddenly discovered fireworks exploding in the southeast. This time, Wilford ran away. Following the direction of the train, Alex guessed that he wanted to escape from the docking yard where Layton had a combat advantage. Wilford knew he had been exposed and had no time to be angry anymore. He asked Javi to push the speed as high as possible, even if they risk running out of energy. LJ lent Kevin the night carriage as a place to judge resistance soldiers. She ignored all of Osweiler's advice and let the wind follow its course. Kevin asked for the names of all the people participating in the resistance, but Strong Boy refused to say a word. He endures it like the way Melanie did with Josie in the past. Even though Kevin had smashed 1 or 2 fingers or even his whole hand, Strong Boy still refused to confess. Kevin was so angry that he wanted to cut off his tongue. He did not do it the usual way but instead injected ice directly into Strong Boy's mouth. Now Layton knows Wilford's upcoming path, but even if he can catch up, it will still be a big problem because he has a secret weapon. If he makes a mistake, this train will immediately be in trouble. Fortunately, that is why he carried Audrey as hostage for 6 months. Now is finally time to use it. With her as a hostage, Wilford will definitely not dare to take any risks. This will be a small advantage but enough to make him stop the engine. Even though Javi used all its speed, it still could not pass the docking station before the transmission arrived. The train suddenly decelerated and could not restart. Layton connected the phone with Wilford and asked to negotiate. He knew he had run out of fuel, so now he could either raise his hands to surrender. In return, Wilford would receive leniency and live happily with his lover in the first car. Wilford didn't need to hear the next part and hastily refused. There's no way Wilford would let Layton take his train. Layton gave him the remaining choice. Either now, he would push the train into the battlefield and then tear him apart until Wilford knelt down and begged for forgiveness. But before he made a decision, he wanted to hear Audrey's voice. Wilford also wanted to meet Audrey, but this was already in his plan. Layton took advantage of the opportunity Wilford was dreaming about. Audrey took the opportunity to run to the back. Wilford promised to meet Audrey soon and then stop the train completely. He never surrendered and forced Ben to stop the train, otherwise everyone on board would die. Wilford knew he was about to win and sent all security to the docking area to wait. Ben went out to tell Javi to open the driver's door. Josie appeared from outside the engine but he did not flinch. Wilford threatened that there were Zara pregnant here, so don't try anything funny. But Josie shot straight into the glass for the second time. Wilford was afraid to step back and immediately tripped over Layton. The security team was already below, so there was no one to protect him. Layton punched Wilford down and pinned the sword on his hand. He forced Wilford to call the security team and ask him to withdraw from the border area. Now he was no different from a fish on the chopping block. To save his life, Wilford announced his surrender and the soldiers put down all their weapons. And one more important thing, Wilford officially handed over the train management back to Layton. Just like that, the revolutionaries are back. Hearing the news, LJ heard Layton's voice and decided to return to support the resistance. She killed Kevin on the spot, raising her hands and shouting, "Long live the resistance." Layton personally escorted Wilford to prison. If he had decided to surrender earlier, he would not have had to suffer like this. Now that he had to endure loneliness and suffering inside the iron frame, to celebrate the return of their leader Layton, she prepared the precious wine that Wilford kept hidden in the cupboard to celebrate. It was like a metaphor. Finally, they tried to save the Roche family from the compartment, but only he and his daughter were lucky to survive. Layton decided to implement true democracy. He would not lead if the people did not agree. Everything would be decided by voting. And most importantly, to convince people to come to the Horn of Africa, a new paradise where everyone can live, Layton begged Asha to help him with a favor. After so much time, once in front of all the people listening to the loudspeaker, Asha expressed that she was from the New Eden, living there for 8 years. When the voting period ended, Layton was trusted by the people again. Finally gained the right to operate and control the train. The number of votes in his favor was twice that of Wilford, but that also comes with new trouble. With Snowpiercer less than 2 weeks to approach the Horn of Africa, the train had taken a shortcut into a secondary track. One morning Alex was waken up by Bennett. He told Alex that there is a blockage of 3 train cars a few kilometers away. Alex suddenly realized it was the 3 cars left over from the event of the first-year cull of Big Alice. 2 engineers asked Layton what should the next move be, since reversing back to the main line would take around 23 days. The team agrees that they couldn't afford to lose that much time since people might discover Asha is lying about New Eden. Dr. Pelton found Layton in the third-class mess hall and told him that she realized something suspicious about Dr. Hedwood's treatment for Zara. The chemicals used are the same as when she turned Josie into Ice Woman. Layton confronts Mrs. Hedwood in the Hedwood's lab aboard Big Alice. Hedwood told Layton that Zara already approved the actions. Layton was so frustrated, but Zara told him that it's for the greater good of the baby. Meanwhile, as Bennett and Alex were trying to connect to the leftover cars, Alex had a lot of memories running in her head of how bad Wilford was and still is. Alex recalling the first-year call of Big Alice that the cars were disconnected in the middle of the night with 100 crews, but Alex was rescued by Wilford. Making she feels thankfully to him, but he actually divided families and couples, including her best friend Shiloh. Wilford eventually figures out in his cell how Snowpiercer's dropping off the clearing crew to clear the blockage and reversing for them to work. He knows exactly that it was the cars leftover from the first-year cull of Big Alice. He also realized that Javier was driving since he could feel hesitance all along the train, which means Alex is indeed out there with the bodies. The man, once the eternal engineer, is truly saddened for Alex having to revisit her best friend as a frozen corpse. Two engineers have to disengage the rail clamps, which acts like an anchor, so that Snowpiercer could push the cars out of the way easily. However, the hydraulic ferrofluid line was blocked. However, the problem is that there's over 1,000 feet of line on the cars. Alex mentioned that Wilford might have known what happened in the car, as one of them is a lemon and keeps broken, which is why he disconnected the car. Meanwhile, Roche approached to Wilford's cell, dismissed brakeman Michael West, who was guarding the cell. Roche shot suspension drug, which he had retrieved earlier from Big Alice's drawers, to Wilford directly into his heart. Layton, who came to Wilford to ask for help, realized that the eternal engineer is no longer an option. Roche collapsed to the ground. Till quickly proceeded to help him. Layton told Alex and Bennett to abort the mission. Alex, keeping Melanie alive inside her head, think of what her mother would do in this situation. She learned a valuable lesson that everyone would have a good and bad side all in the same person. Alex had to use the skill Wilford taught her and overlook about the cull. She successfully disengaged the rail clamps, allowing the train to proceed its journey to New Eden. Layton update the crew that Wilford is in critical condition, but Dr. Pelton think he would pull through. At the end of the day, Layton visits Zara and Alex visits Wilford. Overall, it's another normal busy day aboard the magnificent train, all 1029 cars long. As Zara's close to giving birth, the passengers set up the tree name as they hang a name they seemed fit on the tree, and the mother and father would choose the name they likes the most. Miss Gillies also leads Winnie and Chunder, along with her class, to hang the names as well. A few moments later, Zara's water is breaking. Till, Andre, and Winnie quickly escorts Zara to the Headwoods lab aboard Big Alice. Ruth and Tristan discusses about ringing the baby bell every hour, as it's not often to celebrate a baby aboard Snowpiercer. The two joins the ceremony at the name tree, with Miss Gillies and Miss Audrey watching along with the passengers. Moments after Tristan lights the name tree, a mysterious fire burns the tree. Everyone evacuates the car. Moments later, Till calls Layton that the fire crew already put the fire off. Layton joins Till to investigate the fire and call Dr. Pelton to oversee Zara because he doesn't trust Mrs. Headwood. Pike encounter Ruth in third-class mess hall. Pike asks if Ruth want to stop answering to Layton and to start a new chain of command together with Pike. Ruth nicely declined the offer and told him that she's already having her new life here. Pike heard the baby bells and remarks that only one Layton's is enough. Ruth disagrees and walk away. Meanwhile, Dr. Pelton remarks that Dr. Headwood is unethical and unprofessional of how she's risking humanity's genetic heritage with only 3,000 humans left. Zara's temperature is dropping quickly. Till and Layton investigates the fire. They found out that the liquid used is ethanol. The two get to Nightcar and ask John Osweiler and L.J. Folger, the current Nightcar managers. L.J. and Oz told them that they doesn't have enough ethanol to set the fire, as they serve them in teaspoons. Oz suggested Layton to check Speakeasy in the market. Z-Rek, who's running a legal booze shop, realized someone stole his ethanol. Layton seeks more clue from Wilford until seeks more clue from Miss Audrey. Ruth informs Layton that there's another fire incident in the seed bank car. Layton and Till found out that the fire is just a decoy. Pike, who is hiding in the dark as seen, detonates the bomb. Layton quickly recovers and get to Zara. Liana Layton was born harmlessly. As Pike gives his perspective, we see a flashback where he put the fire on the name tree and when he denotate the bomb at seed bank car. He got a nightmare that Ruth want to break up with him and strong boy haunting him. Z-Rek and Astrid woke him up and told him that someone tries to assassinate Layton. The tree made their way to Big Alice engine. Layton and Zara thanks them and ask them to guard Zara and Liana until this problem unravels. Pike stays up at Big Alice's engine while Astrid and Z-Rek guarded the border at docking car. Till and Sykes investigate storage cars and found out that a bunch of ammonium nitrate is gone. That's how the terrorist made the bomb along with ethanol stole from Z-Rek. Till realized that these same materials were used to make fertilized bomb back in Year 3 Rebellion. Meanwhile, Dr. Pelton visits Layton at Big Alice's engine car to check on him because the bomb earlier. Layden assures everyone that he's okay. Till meets up with Lights, who is now running a repair stall in the market and wears artificial fingers. Lights told her that her bomb recipe from her cookbook was torn out. Only the Taily War Council know about this book, since only Layden, Josie, Z-Rek, Lights and Pike are still alive. Pike is the only suspect. As Layden realized, Pike was carrying Liana. Layden and Zara finally retrieve Liana from Pike. As Layden chases Pike on Big Alice, Pike knocked Layden down and made his way to Snowpiercer. Astrid and Z-Rek were confused why he was in a rush. He told the two that he's getting diapers for Liana. As Pike continues to escape, he went back to the Resistance's hideout where he and Ruth hide when fighting the Wilfordites aboard Wilford's rolling gulag, only to find Asha there. Ash is wearing her Eva suit once again, probably avoiding people as she's still not used to Snowpiercer. Pike talks to Asha and realized that New Eden was a lie. Meanwhile, Layden and Till investigates Pike's pied-à-terre in the market and found Light's bomb recipe hidden in his bed. Ruth later arrived and told Layden that she and Pike formed a romantic bond together. Layden told Ruth that Pike had changed. Ruth is easily convinced as Pike already dropped a few hints in the last 2 episodes. Ruth get to the Resistance's hideout and found Pike with Asha. Pike escaped again. Layden, Ruth, Till and Zara discusses what to do at Big Alice's engine. Brakeman Tyson, now guarding the room, told Layden that Josie and Miles are here to visit. The two discussed that Layden should old Ivan's way. 2 people would talk until they come to an agreement, then the tale would memorizes it. If the 2 couldn't talk, they would both call for the knives and kill the other to dead. Layden did the announcement for Pike to come. The Tailies gathered once again in their old home. While Ruth, Roche, Till and Carly stays together in Rock's couchette, Pike and Layden talks together. Pike remarks that Layden used him so many times. Pike also told Layden that he knows about Asha and New Eden's lies. The 2 then calls for the knives. Layden finally killed Pike after a long battle. The Tailies and Ruth marked Pike's death. Layden stayed to reflect what he has done. In Layden's dream, he waked up in the Snowpiercer's engine, unsure where he is. He finds nobody running the engine. He walked out of the room, realizing the usual W sign on the wall is now a skull symbol. 2 men appeared, put a bag on his head and pulled Layden to a room. He was asked why he was in the engine. One of the men prepared to shot Layden with something through syringe. Wilford opened the door to the room. The 2 people masked revealed later to be Ruth and Javi got in and shot the 2 men. Javi pulled his bobblehead depicting a presumably Hispanic dancing girl out of Layden's pants. Wilford took it, told Ruth and Layden to split up and meet at the border. Layden take a look outside the window. There were a lot of green plants and it looked really warm. He then saw Winnie walking through the corridor with her unusual pigtails hair. He followed her to the library car, which is now have a lot of plants. He then met Tills and asked for help. He then got told by Winnie to be quiet. Till told him that he's not dreaming and he's going to die. Back to the real world, Layden is lying on the floor in the tail section. Pike's dead body is on a bed with Winnie's doll besides him. Josie went back to the tail to get Layden back. She then realized that his pulse is really weak. She told Z-Rek to get Dr. Pelton. Since Layden didn't wake up, he keeps snapping himself to wake up, but to no use. Till told Layden to quiet down, and how the place is and isn't Snowpiercer, and how he will recognize the people but they aren't the same as the real world. Till also explains how he is a librarian. Layden explained to Tills he have to go back to the real world. Tills told him to seek help from the Tail's boss. Layden then explained he needs a passing paper. Tills told him that she will help him get one. After, Layden's unconscious body is taken to Dr. Pelton. Tills and Zara accompany Josie to check on Layden. In his dream, Tills take Layden to the forger, and explained this is the most she can help him. She then used a knife to cut his left palm and told him that the cut will guide him if he lose the way. Layden opened the door, and he found out the forger is Bennett. Bennett is surprised Layden is going to the tail. He told Layden to get to the cartographer in the market. He then asked Layden to do something in return. 2 operatives got whacked up train. He wants Layden to tell him who killed them. Ruth is seen to sneak on the conversation. Layden told Bennett he don't know and he don't rat. Ruth showed up and explained that this was a little test. Bennett gives Layden the passing papers. Back to the real world, Bennett came to check on Layden. Along with Tills, Josie, Zara and baby Liana. Dr. Pelton explains Layden's in coma. For 12 hours, a CT scan also shows that his brain is swelling. All that everyone can do is to stay strong. Tills and Bennett leave while Josie and Zara stays with Layden. Layden later meet up with Wilford, Ruth and Javi at a battery car near the border. Wilford told everyone to answer questions to get through the border, and to stick with each's cover stories. Layton asked Javi what was his cover story. Javi told him that he's a dancer. Z-Rec was seen as immigration officer. Wilford, Ruth and Javi passed. While Z-Rec is talking to Layton, LJ in police officer uniform appeared and asked him questions. He then let Layton pass through. On the train, Tills is walking through the corridor. She hides in a pathway and cries. Turned out Miss Audrey was in there. Tills was first annoyed, but then Miss Audrey said she's sorry for what happened to Layton. She recommends Tills to talk to Layton. Tills asked Miss Audrey to do it instead. In Layton dream, he, Wilford, Ruth and Javi arrived at the night car. Mrs. Hedwood takes Wilford to dance. Ruth went to smoke in the back while Javi and Layton drinks rum with Sykes. Sykes brought up a bag. Javi showed Layton that there's a gun inside. Layton then told everyone he's going to the restroom. Ruth told Layton to stay, but Wilford let Layton goes through. Layton is now in the market, with Sykes following him. He sneaks through people and finds Zara as the cartographer. Zara tell him that the password to the tale is most will run, some will seek. Hide or cheat, we always meet. I present, past and future keep. Javi found Layton and yells for help. Sykes, Ruth and Wilford gets Layton. Ruth points the gun to Layton. They said that Layton is he's stanking. However, Wilford told him that they need him just for the meeting. The group made their way to third class a dining car. They met Alex, but she won't let anyone in. Broche then told Alex to get only Layton in the car. Broche invites Layton and Wilford to have a meal together. Miss Gillies is seen preparing foods. Layton told Roche that he's the one killing 2 operatives uptrain. Roche asks if they have what he needs. Wilford gave Roche a bobblehead depicting a presumably Hispanic dancing girl, which Alex confirmed that it's legit, while Roche gives Layton Winnie's doll with something inside, which Javi confirmed it's legit. LJ got in the room with 2 jackboots. A lot of people pointed guns, then a chaotic fight happened. Miss Gillies, Javi, Roche, Ruth and Alex got killed. LJ locked Layton in a prison cell and told him that the firing squad will come at midnight. She then exits the room. Pike, who was in the room since the beginning, tell Layton to confess his sins, and how the tail boss couldn't send him home. He then exits the room. Meanwhile, in the real world, Josie, Zara and baby Liana is looking over Layton. Tills brings Miss Audrey in. Josie and Zara then leaves the room. Miss Audrey then gives Layton the therapy sessions, attempting to get him back to the real world. Back to Layton dream, Miss Audrey opens the locked prison cell for Layton. He runs through a battery car and found Wilford, who is severely injured in a Spice greenhouse car. Wilford gives Layton Winnie's doll, told him that it is a present to the tail boss and bled out to death. On Snowpiercer, Wilford, imprisoned in the library car, called Alex as he discovered something. Asked her to bring him some compass, charts, parallel rulers and instruments. He's up to something big. Meanwhile, Josie and Zara are talking outside the room. Zara told Josie how much she hates Taylor's traditions, and how Josie and Layton are taking such a good care of everyone. Zara encourages Josie to pursue a romantic relationship with Layton and makes peace with her, telling Josie that Zara and Layton work better as co-parents than an actual couple, and she's sorry that she left the tale. Josie said that she never blames Zara. Finally, in the dream world, Layton approaches the tale. It's locked. Josie asked Layton the password in order to get in. Layton tell her the password is death. Josie let him in and took him to the tail boss. Layton gives the tail boss the mouse doll. The tail boss gives Layton a letter. He suddenly realized it's Zara's handwriting. The letter turned out to be the one Zara had written in the beginning of a new life, which means that the tail boss is Liana, his daughter. Liana told Layton to see what's inside Winnie's doll. It turned out to be Pike's bomb. He then faded away. He wake up in Ash's room in the nuclear reactor. Asha cooked Layton tomato soup and a grilled cheese for lunch. Asha hides something from Layton inside a locker, while Layton fights to see what's inside. There were some noises outside. Asha told him it was the Marauders. They both went outside of the room wearing the body-protecting suits. They killed the Marauders. He then rushed back to the room, opened up the locker and see the dragon blood tree as a picture in the calendar. In the end, Layton wakes up. Zara called Dr. Pelton immediately. Till told Miss Audrey that Layton is going to be okay. Josie went to see Layton as he realized he's telling too many lies just to lead the train. Meanwhile, Wilford enlists Alex's help with performing some calculations before revealing that he has created a map of the pirate train's course and Big Alice's hunt for it. Wilford explains that about 3 months into the search, he had thought that he'd caught a break, a track switch signal near Marseille that Big Alice had followed and found no sign of them. However, Alex points out that the pirate train was on a different continent at the time, which means it wasn't them. While Alex thinks that it could have been a malfunction, Wilford believes that it was Melanie and that she is still alive out there somewhere. Asha is still having a hard time aboard Snowpiercer. Ruth was worried about her, so she visited Asha in her cabin. Asha revealed that the scientists at the nuclear plant actually turned on each other. She had to poison everyone to keep her nephew safe. After that, cancer got her nephew, so she had to mercy kill him. Ruth takes her to the Ag Sec and told her that having a purpose will help her get through. Layden dropped by and talked to her about the dragon blood tree in his visions. Asha confirmed that the picture is in the calendar in the nuclear reactor. She had kept the picture to remind herself of how special the world is. Layden is losing more and more faith in New Eden. Ruth told Layden that the engineers needed them in the engine. Bennett and Alex explained that track switches operated on battery data, and they realized some of them have lost the energy because something has been moving from a track to another. When they tracked the switches, it led back to Rocky Mountain Test Track, near Breslauer Weather Station. In theory, Melanie could have reached a facility on the mountain, but there's no food or water and any vehicles there aren't designed to support life. Yet there's a hope that Engineer Cavill is indeed outside. It'd be 2 days detour if Snowpiercer decided to follow the current location of the vehicle. Alex remarked that the only reason they're checking is because Wilford told her. Layden get to library car talk with Wilford and he realized that he doesn't mean any harm. Ruth later made an announcement in the hospitality car. Alex and Bennett, both being stressed more than ever, comforts each other in the engine. Layden's faith in himself keeps failing. Zara comforts him. Meanwhile, Ash's atmospheric CCA tool detected poison volcanic gas incoming. Layden and Asha made their way to the engine. Asha told Bennett and Alex that there's sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide which could burn everyone's lung right out. Alex used the satellite and realized that the gases lays 200 kilometers long on the track. Wilford got taken from library car and assured that the train's HVAC system, that's include heating, ventilation, and air conditioning which can handle these concentrations, and the train won't be corroded from hydrogen sulfide as it is accounted in design. Bennett announced to the whole train to move back to their quarters unless they're essential workers. While Javi and Sykes were working as usual in an Ag Sec car, they smelled something odd. Javi informed Ben at the engine and realized that the air scrubber is all corroded and broken. At one point, Sykes inhaled too much volcanic gas and collapsed to the ground. Javi performed CPR and saved Sykes. Layden and Asha head to the car in order to close the intake, but they both realize that they are too bulky with the Eva suit and can't close it. Asha decided to take one for the train and sacrifices herself. Taking her suit off, she successfully managed to close the intake, costing her life. Layden helped her through her last moments. Ruth came by once again to comfort Andre. While Ben gives his perspective, we are introduced to a new locomotive used for maintenance that houses Melanie in a suspension-drugged state. During the day cycles that she is out of suspension, she records audio logs of her days waiting to receive signs of Snowpiercer. During her second revolution, Snowpiercer finds Melanie in the track scaler and they head to pick her up. In order to manage the track scaler while Melanie is in suspension, Ben, Josie, and Layden attach a chain to the scale locomotive and hoist her up into a crane docking station within Snowpiercer. After being brought back onto Snowpiercer, a cutscene skips 3 days later where Alex and Melanie are found in the second-class clinic and Melanie is awoken from suspension. They have some mother-daughter reconnection time where Alex explains what was happening on Snowpiercer during the 6 months that she was away and Melanie reveals that she was thinking of Alex the entire time that she is away, and Alex reveals to her that she kept thinking of Melanie the entire time as well. After her few reunions, Melanie and Layden speak again and Layden's lie of a new Eden is revealed to Melanie by Ben and Alex. She explains that what she did when in power was almost tied into what he did to the passengers, lie. Layden then takes Melanie to the engine where she meets Javi again and views the scientific data of the new Eden that has everyone hyped. After reviewing some of the data, she reveals that her conclusion is slightly opposed to the plan to New Eden, saying that it lacked critical thinking. Melanie is taken to see Wilford, by her request, in the library car where Melanie questions him on his intentions for picking her up again. He reveals that he is tired of being the only sane person on the train, telling Melanie that he doesn't believe in a new Eden and that the track to the Horn is not suitable for trains to pass over. Melanie is presumably persuaded by Wilford to stop the risk of going over the track. Alex and Melanie prepare for the party to celebrate the unboarding of passengers from the train. Melanie expresses her concern of passing the track and having inconclusive data. She tells her about the risks and Alex stays hopeful in New Eden. During the party, Wilford is delivered some desserts and a vial containing an unknown substance which is hidden from the brakemen. Meanwhile, Till and Audrey head to the night car where Audrey begins reminiscing about the night car and her time in the night car. In the first-class dining car, Melanie expresses to Layden that she firmly believes that New Eden is not a good idea whatsoever. During everyone's admiration of the pyramids, Melanie goes to the hospitality office and reveals Layton's lies of a new Eden. After the train goes into a frenzy, falling back against Layton, Melanie steals the train again and locks down the engine. On a phone call between the engines, Melanie tells Ben why she did it, that she did not want to risk the lives of everyone aboard. Layton then tells everyone in Big Alice that he wants to fight once again. Oz wanted to escape from the night car because he was sure that Wilford would come here. Before he could run away, the Wilford faction was already there. They want to occupy this place as a base camp to separate the two sides. And Wilford's secret weapon, the man he saved from the aquarium explosion, Breachman Boki, now is Icy Boki. This side Layton once again stood in front of Tailies to explain. He admitted he was wrong about the lie, but New Eden is completely possible. He reminded them of the suffering under the rule of Melanie, and the people at the back of the ship unanimously determined to go to the new paradise. Roche with his man standing patrolling the night car. Because of Boki's presence, they did not dare to attack. Roche offers a chance to escape and Oz immediately takes it. But before he could pass, Wilford ordered Boki to throw him. Even though Audrey wanted to go, looking at that scene, she did not dare to move. Alex met Melanie and blamed her for extinguishing the hope for all the people. Alex convinced her mother to meet with Layton to negotiate. Layton told Melanie that if she doesn't turn to New Eden, the people in the back of the train will rebel and do it. Two sides went back and forth, but the negotiation has completely failed. Melanie wanted Alex to follow her, but the girl refused. Melanie, not wanting to take the risk, decided to return to the locomotive, and Layton launched an attack with the aim of capturing the agricultural carriage. Oz came to report on the situation about the night car. Zara went to Wilford to remind him of their previous agreement. No matter which side the balance tilted, he had to ensure the safety of her child. The train's Tailies troops now took over the agricultural carriage without losing a single life. They were extremely skilled in combat and were not afraid of collision. Melanie no longer had the power she had before, so the favor of battle did not follow her, but Roche chose to follow her. Now the Brakemen and the New Eden faction are standing in the middle. This move forced Melanie to ally with the person she hated the most, Wilford. She only agreed to cooperate on the condition that the train would still be hers and he would take on the responsibility of advising. They cooperated and convinced Captain Roche to join their side. His goal was to prevent violence from happening. Roche announced to Layton that he needed to stand down, but Layton simply demonstrated the battle prowess of the train Tailies troops, causing the brakemen to tremble and retreat. The Tailies were not bloodthirsty but were not afraid of bloodshed. Layton calls Melanie and declares that he will neither surrender nor negotiate, but if the two keep fighting, Wilford will win. No matter which side takes control, Wilford will try to manipulate them. Melanie met with Wilford to discuss the issue of Layton and was determined not to surrender, and of course she also would not be sure to attack, thus causing chaos and more bloodshed. Wilford decided to play a dangerous trick using the Layton child, one of Wilford's favorite sinister plans. He and Melanie went to the place arranged in advance with Zara, but Melanie suddenly closed the door and locked Boki outside. What was waiting for him was Ruth with a shovel. With Boki dealt with, Layton and Melanie decided to cooperate in removing Wilford from the train. Audrey in the end said goodbye to Wilford as she got a new lover. Before leaving, he was still extremely confident, to see who would survive in the end. Then everyone come to the decision to split the train in half, one will move on while the other go to New Eden. The road to the new paradise is expected to be very difficult and arduous, but it will give them freedom and open up a new life on the mainland, as it is worth the risk. There will definitely be separations, starting with Audrey and Bess. Even though she loved Audrey, Bess no longer has a reason to stay there. Getting off the train has long been her wish. Roche decided to listen to his daughter and get off the train as well. Ben also decided to break up with Melanie, but thinking about it, he couldn't leave her alone on this train. Miles chooses to stay on the train to learn more from Ben and Melanie, the two best engineers alive. Hosea and Layton bid farewell to Miles with a solidarity sign of the Tailies. Josie and Layton held hands tightly to the New Eden. While everyone was busy moving to the back of the ship, LJ chose to stay. Oz wanted her to go with him, but she just cursed him for being a coward. He gave her one last kiss and said goodbye, leaving the weak girl sobbing in the third-class carriage. When Melanie and Alex parted ways, she prepared all the necessary things for Alex, including the jacket that Melanie wore when she was about to die. She hopes that Melanie will always be safe. Melanie now just wants to hold her daughter in her arms a little longer. Ruth handed over the position of head of the hospitality department to Tristan. There were only 5 minutes left until the time to separate the train. People bid farewell to each other before separating. The last meeting in the agricultural compartment. In that last moment, Bess chose to stay with Audrey's side, Melanie said goodbye to Alex, and Ben said goodbye to Javi. The train was sailing to the land of New Eden with full potential. Meanwhile, in a dark corner of the train, LJ is holding her father's artificial eye in her mouth. Suddenly someone passed by and nudged her shoulder. The eyes drifted down to her throat, making her pay the price for what she had done. The track to New Eden is really bad. With it being too fast, the train can flip over, but too slow and the track will collapse because the train is too heavy. They continuously experienced violent shaking. The wheels bounced as if they wanted to leave the tracks. Layden ordered the train to run at full speed. The fire flashed red across a long strip. Everyone held hands and crossed the collision-filled road together. The brakes made the train almost flip over. Javi and Alex decided to increase their speed at full speed. They finally arrived. The temperature here was -10 degrees Celsius and was gradually increasing to -5 degrees Celsius and over 0 degrees Celsius. The sunlight shining in surprised them a bit. There was a big lake, and the landscape was full of warmth. 3 months later, Melanie returned. A flare was fired to signal that they had survived, and the journey to the New Eden had a completely beautiful ending.